brought you and a knife.
See, we working on his brow chakra. We're just in back of the crown chakra. You are a coward, son of a bitch!
We'll do it live.
All right. Welcome to the show. This is our first show, Waxing the Porpoise. My name is Jim, aka G Baby, G String, G Funk, and my co-host Steve Dog.
Yo, good to see you.
Good to see you too, friend. All right, so obviously we're a new podcast. We've been brought together by fate. We're going to be discussing films because Steve hasn't seen any, and I thought it would be fun to culture him in the ways of movies, and then not to be pigeonholed by one topic. We also will be discussing various elements of the unexplained, true crime, kind of stuff like that. So part of the idea is at the end of each episode, we'll spin a wheel and it'll dictate what our next topic will be. It'll either be a movie or something of the unexplained nature, or a wild card. Could be like a personal anecdote or whatever the fuck we feel like talking about. So I guess a variety show, if that's what you want to call it. But I mean, the impetus was just to be, because I'm a huge movie buff. I thought it'd be fun to talk about movies, so here we are.
Yeah, to add a little background to that, Jim and I actually used to work together out in the real world. And like you said, he's a huge movie buff, and I've probably seen 12 movies in my entire life, only slightly exaggerating. And there would be so many instances where he would be talking about some movie like Chinatown, and I'm like, oh, I've never seen it. And he would just be beside himself that I hadn't seen a classic film like that. So every now and then I would just walk by him in the halls like, oh, by the way, I've never seen The Godfather, just to see the look on his face. So that was kind of the genesis of this this project.
Yeah, I was thinking that exact thing. It's because I think too it's me being like a latchkey kid and an only child, like kind of like in the movie The Cable Guy. Like I'm doing it right now. The thing I'm about to describe is when he's
never
like,
seen it.
God damn you.
Just kidding, I've seen it.
Okay. I was gonna say, fuck, man, we might have problems.
Billy.
Dude, you know, at the end when he's like, I learned about the facts of life from watching The Facts of Life. It's like I relate everything to a fucking movie. Like when I'm like, oh, that's like in Black Rain when he has to travel to fucking Japan to bring those guys in.
Yeah, that sounds like a horrible movie.
It's so good. That's one we will cover for sure. You really haven't seen Black Rain?
No.
Oh, fuck. Okay. Yeah, we're going to get on a Michael Douglas kick then for sure. We have to. Anyway, so yeah, that's it. And so the inaugural episode we're talking about 2006's The Prestige.
You don't really want to know. You want to be fooled.
Directed by Christopher Nolan, co-written by his brother Jonathan Nolan, which I don't know if he still does that, but he did that quite a bit in his first few films. And it's based off of a 1995 novel by a dude named Christopher Priest. Fun, I guess, some fun trivia, I guess, to lead us into it is Sam Mendes. You familiar with this one?
I know he did 1917, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. That's the only thing I know that name from.
He did American Beauty.
Oh, okay.
Kevin Spacey, Mina Suvari.
Yeah.
Okay. So around like right after American Beauty, Sam Mendes wanted to follow up that with The Prestige. And it kind of got kicked around, just Hollywood stuff. He ended up making something else. I can't remember what it was. But then the author of The Prestige, Christopher Priest, he saw one of Nolan's first films, which is called Following. I haven't seen it. I probably should watch it, but he saw it and he was like, nope, I want this dude. So Nolan got it. But I thought that was kind of cool because I feel like their directorial careers from that point have kind of mirrored each other, because like you said, Mendes did 1917 and he also did 2 Bond films, and then Nolan later did Batman, the new Batman Begins, Dark Knight, all that. I guess you can there's kind of a similarity between that and Bond films, but he also did then Dunkirk, like I think 2 or 3 years before 1917. So and they're kind of both like Mendes and Nolan, I feel like they're both up there. They're like a higher echelon of director. They're kind of like pardon the pun, but they're like prestige directors. But I thought that was interesting.
What a fun turn of phrase.
Yeah.
I've seen 1917, I've seen Memento, but then every single other movie you just listed from their resumes, I have not seen. Okay,
cool. Yeah, I figured. You haven't seen any of the Bond films that Mendes did? He did Skyfall?
No,
you haven't seen Skyfall?
No, none of the new Batmans.
I'm pretty indifferent to Nolan's Batman films. I know that's kind of a hot take. I know everyone holds up The Dark Knight like it's this fucking greatest thing ever. And I think that's just like overshadowed by like Ledger. His performance in it is pretty top notch. Yeah. Everything else I could take it or leave it.
I just was never really into like comic books or anything as a kid, so I had no real draw to any of that stuff.
Right on.
So yeah.
Okay, so The Prestige. I think the topic. I'm super curious to hear, what did you think of it? Actually,
how did it
hit you?
I only watched it today because I was procrastinating a little bit, and it helps that it will keep it fresh. It's funny that you mentioned it was a book, because when I was watching it and then when it ended, I just got this feeling like I felt like there was so much more to the story that it felt like kind of a condensed book, you know? So hearing that makes sense. And to pull the curtain back a little bit, when Jim first mentioned The Prestige, I was like, no, I've never seen it, but I think I know there's something that has to do with a twin. Like it's like a magic trick. That's my cat. I know there's like magic and there's a twin, and he's like, oh yeah, but that's like not even the biggest part. There's a bunch of other cool stuff. Turns out that is like the biggest part of the whole movie. So as I'm watching it, I'm like, I was trying to convince myself that maybe it was like the Hugh Jackman character who had a twin early on, you know, not exactly what I thought was going to happen. But yeah, it didn't take away from the enjoyment of it. But it was just funny. Like, no, it's not. That's not a huge part of it. It's the hugest part. But
I'd still be willing to fight that. But I mean, it is a big part. Mainly, that was like, fuck. I was like, didn't want you to deter you from watching it.
Right. So. Yeah. Classic me being a wet blanket with movies. You know, like, oh no, I've never seen it, but I heard like what's possibly the most important part of the movie. So, but I try not to let that deter me from watching it, because I did really like it. And like
so
when I did, and it's funny, when Tesla came out, I was like, look at this guy looking like a beat down David Bowie. And then when I looked it up later, I'm like, oh shit, that's David Bowie. Rest in peace.
Shit.
Yeah, I thought it was a really cool, revenge movies are always cool. I thought the weird, little sci-fi twist of the ending, like, oh, it actually is like a cloning machine. I was like, all right, that's a little sort of not what I was expecting, but it wasn't, so far outside the bounds that I was like, okay, I just can't buy into this. But yeah, that actually brings up one of my questions, because I saw it this morning and I've kind of just been thinking about it throughout the day a little bit. And my first question to you, I don't know if this is going to throw off what you had planned or if you were going to bring this up later, but
no, we're just get into it.
when he goes into the machine, does his original self stay in the machine, or is his original self the clone that gets transported? Because, when he first does it, he shoots the clone, right? But then later, when he's actually doing the trick, the original is the guy who drops into the tank. So that makes me think the original is the one that gets transported. And if that's the case, the original Hugh Jackman, I can't remember his character name, that means when he did the first transport, he died at the hand of his clone, right?
Well, that's funny you bring that up. And the other thing, just to slightly backtrack, is you said you watched it today for the first time, so it's fresh. I would agree, like, that's probably the way to go in a format like this. And then we talk about it and you're super fresh on it. Whereas I've seen this movie like 20, 25 times probably. This one, I think it behooves one to watch it like multiple times and let things kick around. Because I guarantee if you ever watch this again, your second viewing of it and maybe third or fourth is going to hit you a totally different way. Like, I remember when I saw this for the first time, I was like, I need to see that like immediately, right again. And I did, and I watched it right over again. But
that's what you're talking about. Person does,
huh?
That's what an insane person does.
It's not every film, but this one, it was like, because the hats at the beginning and the way this movie's edited is fucking just like choppier than shit, like it goes back, forward, present, past, like I hate to say this because so many people have said it, and I think it's a little pretentious, but people have called Chris Nolan the master of nonlinear filmmaking. And I mean, this is probably the one, like, where it's like, yeah, because I feel like the editing and the storytelling is weaved in such a way. I mean, it's pretty convoluted, but I feel like it makes sense for this film. Like the way that he did all those cuts. Like, I think the very beginning, when you start out the movie, it's like at the midpoint of the story. Anyway, that I went off on.
I thought the beginning was when he watches him drown. Isn't that pretty close to the beginning?
Well, I guess it depends on your perspective. I guess outside of that first like jarring scene where it's Borden, Christian Bale's character, and he sees him drowning. Yeah. But from there, then it bounces right to Angier, Hugh Jackman in Colorado Springs. It shows him on the train and he's going. Oh, yeah. It kind of starts at the midpoint. It just a bunch of funky cuts. Anyway, getting back to what your question though was about the fucking who's the man in the box, like how they say in the movie. I've kicked that around a ton, and I've done in researching this fucking episode. I've read a bunch of stuff, and I feel like at this point it's just academic, and like it doesn't matter what you think happened, like, or which version of it is. You're just going to end up chasing your tail. Like, I went down a fucking K-hole thinking about this. But to finally answer your question, I have a funky opinion that it's not I think the original gets killed right off the bat, because if you watch it again, as soon as the dude inside the machine grabs the gun and shoots, you hear him, he's all, no, wait, hold on, it sounds like he's about to say something. And I didn't come up with this out of my own mind. I saw someone else say this, but I thought it was interesting. They said it sounds like, or you could speculate that he's about to say, no, it's me, I'm the original. I thought that was kind of fun to just noodle on. Like, well, that would make sense. The original.
Yeah, I mean, that would
get killed straight away.
And that would make sense later on, where the original gets killed every time. The person in the machine, not the facsimile who comes out. And also, why hang on to all those dead bodies? That seemed kind of strange. I mean, just dump them in the river. It's like, what, 1890 something in London? Just dump that shit in the river. Why would you keep a warehouse full of dead clones?
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and I think it was maybe just a purely logistical deal, like, because he has all those blind stagehands,
Yeah.
Maybe it would have been too hard to pull something like that off and have the risk of getting caught versus, just his equipment being delivered back to, because that old burnout theater was his, he owned it.
Yeah.
So maybe it was just a matter of like a logistical deal. Like it was easier just to duck that shit off to the side there versus, like trying to dump it in the river and maybe someone catches on like, hey, what the fuck are you doing? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a good question though. It's like now that I think about it though, I'm like, fuck, why did he keep all that shit? Maybe for the final reveal, he wanted to show, because like throughout the movie they say, you got to get your hands dirty, or like, are you ready to get your hands dirty in magic? Yeah. Maybe that was part of his final salvo of like, yep, look how fucking dirty my hands got. I killed myself or someone else, I committed murder 100 times.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think there's any right answer.
It's interesting. Yeah, it seems like that might be one of those like details that would be in the book that it's like there's just no time to cover this in the movie, but who knows?
Yeah, I saw a couple YouTube clips too of people talking about this film, and they didn't point to specifics, but they did say that the novel, obviously by virtue of that medium, it's more fleshed out. Like the story is more fleshed out than the 2 hours that you get of this film. But I'd be curious.
Scarlett Johansson sucks, by the way.
I think her British accent is fucking terrible.
Yeah,
it's real bad.
Yeah,
but other than that, I mean, I think they got her. I think by that time she was a name and a pretty face. But I mean, I think she's a good actress separate from that. But yeah, she didn't add too much to the film for me.
I don't really know anything about acting, quote unquote, to look at something and be like, this person is a good or bad actor or whatever. But sometimes I feel like, I'm very aware that this is not, like genuine, like there's a level of suspension of disbelief that is easy. But when I was watching her, I was like, you're not good.
Did you like the gal that died in the water thing, the Julia?
Yeah.
I felt like
she did a good job. Even Christian Bale's wife, I thought she did a good job.
Rebecca Hall from
a product of I don't know what, some other movie I've never seen.
Yeah,
Rebecca Hall.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty new on her too. I just saw her in The Night House, so and she was real good in that. But I know she's like a name, and I think she's more like on the British side, but she has a good pedigree. That's all I know. But yeah, I think she did an excellent job too.
White Horse, White House,
White House. There. Yeah, I thought she was great. That part was fucked up, super fucked up. Like how
the part where she killed herself, or when the wife drowns,
and the things that like leading up to that, like that pushed her away and like pushed her to that by having to love two different dudes, one of which fucking hated her and one that loved her. Like
I mean, especially going into it with that knowledge of the twin thing. The first time she was like, oh, some days I can tell you love me and some days you don't. I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool thing. If you didn't know, the big reveal at the end, like, oh, well, yeah, that makes sense because you're talking to two different people.
Right. Yeah. And I guess too, one thing, just to go back to the man in the box, like who is it not? I thought that'd be a super interesting question. I think it still is to think about too, but to try and break it down, I feel like if you felt like you came to some kind of definitive, like, I think this is it, I don't think that gets you anything. Like, I don't think that gets you anything more out of the movie if you felt like you had clarity on who it was or not. I think just thinking about like, fuck, like, because it splits into two people, one of which is going to die, one of which isn't, and they don't know. Like, he doesn't know which one it's going to be. He only knows the one that knows, only knows when he's dead.
Yeah.
I think that's getting into like some philosophical, like crazy, like mind bending stuff to try and think about, like, yeah, it's just,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like I get it, and I guess in a way, maybe it's just like my personality, because I hate. Oh God, I hope you're sitting down. I hate movies, like at the very end, like Inception, where it's like, did the top stop spinning or not? Like, I don't know. I guess we'll have to fight about it for fucking ever. Like,
yeah.
I like resolution more than I like the sort of open-ended, it's up to your own interpretation. Like, oh, and in The Departed, was what's his name a good guy or a bad guy? It's like, can we please just land the plane and don't leave it up to the viewer to fight about? So I think the first time he went through the machine, the original pops out. It's sort of like a copy machine, but also a teleporter. So the original pops out, the facsimile shoots him and kills him, and then realizes like, oh, okay, I'm the clone. So if I'm going to start doing this trick again, whoever I put in the fucking thing, they're going to die. Right? So that's why we'll put that trap door there, so that I survive as the original every time, coming out on the other end of the machine. Right? Does that make sense? Because he would have to do it. He would have to do it one more time to get the second guy and keep that guy alive long enough for him to put on the show. Or no, I guess not. He would at least have to do the trick one time on stage without the water chamber beneath him, right, to survive.
Yeah, but that doesn't happen.
Well, they don't show it.
That's true.
Because he would have to do it once, teleport, come back, kill that guy. Wait, what the fuck?
Dude,
that's interesting.
I racked my brain, and then I went on a fucking rabbit hole through like Reddit and like YouTube, and I was like, okay, because I'm too dumb to like come up with something eloquent like right when I was thinking about it. And then so I'm like looking at whether I'm like, oh, okay, I can follow along with that logic. And then I don't know, it just got me like worked up into a tizzy, like, fuck,
he could do it solo. So when he kills original Hugh Jackman, there's only one guy, right? So then he goes, sets up the device with the trapdoor in the tank. So he goes through the machine again. Original gets teleported up to the balcony or whatever. The clone just immediately falls into the chamber and dies, right? Does that track like mentally with you?
Well, again, I can't claim that I came up with this, but like from what I saw, that made the most sense to me was that in arguing for the original coming out of it, he could only do it. It'd only be the original one time. So like,
where are you coming up with that?
So the original would go into the machine, and then out comes a clone. He kills it with the gun, right?
Yeah.
So then when he
kills the original is what I'm thinking.
That's your take on it.
Because I feel like they kind of made him look a little different in the end of the movie. Like he almost looked like a knockoff of himself.
You think so? Almost like
I thought so a little bit.
Huh. I don't know. I think we could just go in circles talking about it, because like my whole thing was like, it seemed like when they diverge into two people, they always they make a carbon copy of everything, including each other's consciousness, right at that point. So those two would never know. And for me, like, I don't know how to tell which one would be the OG. But again, like my opinion of it is like, I don't think that adds to the story, knowing that, like, or having clarity for yourself if you think you know which one it is, the clone versus the OG. I think it's just fun, and like it'll really fuck your mind up if you think about it too long.
Yeah, I
like about consciousness splitting. I
shouldn't have dropped acid right before we did this.
It is fun just to kind of melt your brain a little bit on, I think. But beyond that, I think there's so much other shit going on in the story that's worthy of like talking about or examining. Not that this isn't worth examining, but for me, it just
it's interesting.
It tied me
it's
up
one of
in
those
knots.
things you could sort of argue it either way. But yeah.
I mean, most movies, you watch and you're done with it and you put it to the side. Whereas with this one, I think it's fun to like, it has those like nagging thoughts, like every once in a while you'll think about, something like that, like who's the man in the box? Like, do you have vestiges, of like a recollection of anything? It just,
I mean, well, you could also argue like neither is the original and neither is the clone, right? Like, and so the guy on stage, like, they just need to get rid of him because he's the origin, and they only need the copy. So it's you could, I don't know, in some world you could just say like it doesn't matter, they're both the same person. Like there is no original and no clone at that point. But
I think it's like that. What is it called? It's like local shit. It's like where two things can be, like in like astrophysicist shit and physics, like where two things can be at different points at the same time, and they can turn on and off like a switch.
Yeah, is that like a quark or something, or
I don't know,
some other science word I can't think of?
There was some science dude. He was an Indian dude that was like super smart as fuck, and he was talking about it. It was like non-local something, like superposition. Yeah, it was superposition and something else. But it's like where two things can exist in at the same time in like billions of miles away from each other.
Yeah, if you're smart in Indian, go ahead and drop it in the comments and help us out.
Yeah, wax at waxingtheporpoise.com. Let us know. Yeah, that, I mean, that's like the biggest one. Like, I feel like when you're done with the movie, you're like, oh fuck, who is it? But
I think that was the second biggest question I had. The first one is Hugh Jackman gay
in the film?
No, in real life.
No.
Oh,
yeah, he's all about pussy. It's, I guess it's not funny, but because I mean, he's a pretty handsome dude, but he is married to a gal I think that's a little bit older than him. I think she's like 10-ish plus years his senior.
Yeah, I looked her up. I'm saying 10 at least. Yeah,
she's quite a bit. I think too, as time has gone on and like present day, it's like that age difference is even more noticeable now. But I say good on Hugh Jackman, because he blew up into this huge fucking star, and most people like that, they're just like hit the bricks, like I'm wifing up this 22-year-old. I think that's kind of cool. That's heartwarming. But yeah,
I hope he finds a nice young man to make him happy. He is a handsome dude, though.
He is a handsome devil.
And she is aging like an avocado.
Which one did you like more? Did you gravitate more to Bale's character or Jackman, or neither?
I would definitely say more to Hugh Jackman, like the guy out for revenge.
It's kind of like Count of Monte Cristo in that way, which is why I think this film really.
I've never read it, never seen it.
What? Oh, dude. Okay,
relax.
Add it to the list.
Yeah, well, I mean, because even from the beginning, obviously, Christian Bale fucked up, and the idea that he said he doesn't know which knot he tied. Like, well, the only way that's true is if, when he asked him the question twice, it was his twin, and he's like, I legitimately do not know. Because in that moment when he goes to tie it, she looks at him like, what the fuck are you doing? We just talked about this. And he's like, all right, and undoes it and then redoes it. So that makes me think he tied the correct knot, but him saying he doesn't know.
I think that's my biggest complaint with the film. It's like, he does know.
Yeah. I mean, unless
it
was his brothers,
he's a brother. They would have talked about it at one point. And I feel like he would have been compelled to fucking like own up to it to Jackman at some point. Like, like even if it wasn't him, if it was his double that did it, I mean, you got to have some kind of fucking remorse, because it's like, that's why she died, dude. Like,
Yeah. So another thing, and if we start to get on too much of a tangent, let me know. But I'm curious what you think about Michael Caine's character, and I can't remember the character's name, just the actors' names. But
Cutter.
Yeah. When Christian Bale's on trial, he's basically like, I'm not going to tell you how the trick is done, blah blah blah, and the judge is like, well, I can take you in the back and you can tell me in confidence or whatever. But he didn't know how the trick was done at that point because, right? He thought that Hugh Jackman actually drowned below the stage, and it was only later when he came back after the fire sale of all his equipment that he's like, oh shit, you're still alive. It's like, how could he have explained how the trick worked? He didn't know.
No, I think you're wrong in that.
Wrong.
The Cutter dude did know. Michael Caine did know, because immediately following that trial, you could argue against it, but immediately after that trial, it made it seem like he got hanged like within a day or two of that trial. And at the very, very end, you see Michael Caine handing over his daughter to the other
Right.
Christian Bale. So that's the very end of the film to me. So he knew what that machine was capable of. So he didn't want to disclose it to the judge because he wanted to destroy it. That was my take on it.
So
that's why he didn't want to say what it was or give up anything about it, because he knew what kind of damage it inflicted. Like it makes clones of people, and he wanted to fucking destroy it.
It seemed like once Michael Caine knew the truth about the machine and all the other clones that he was killing, that's when he sort of turned on him and was like, fuck this guy. Right. And that's why when he left that burned out theater that night and he saw Christian Bale coming in, I think he knew he was coming in and intentionally didn't stop him, because he like, and that's when he told him down in the basement about like his friend who almost drowned. Like he told him the truth, right?
Yeah. Okay, I think you're right.
So I think he knew that Christian Bale was coming for him, and he just let it happen because he was so like, wow, you fucked up big time. But I don't think he knew until then, which, maybe what he went back and told the judge was like, he's using a double, because that's just what he assumed, because that's what he assumed about both guys. But yeah, I wasn't sure if you thought, because the way it ended with Michael Caine giving the daughter over to Christian Bale, I got like this weird whiff of, are they trying to say like he was on his side the entire time? But I don't think that's right. I think I just kept looking for like one more little twist.
Yeah.
Which that one wasn't there, but yeah, I don't think he knew at the time of the trial. I don't think he knew the truth is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's fair. And then so to answer the question, maybe he didn't want to talk about it because maybe he thought there was something financial that he could gain by keeping it secret, like continuing, or he wanted to figure out what it was without anyone else knowing. Maybe it was just as simple as that. But I think you bring up a good point too, though, like that you think that he wasn't on Christian Bale's side until the very end. And I agree. I think his allegiance kind of jumped a little bit throughout the film versus like the reveal being like, oh yeah, he was on Christian Bale's side the whole time, or vice versa. But yeah,
I thought it's not even really a criticism, but Hugh Jackman getting the planted diary, and then Christian Bale getting the planted diary. It's like, oh, isn't that just awfully cute? They both,
I thought that was dope.
They both hoodwinked each other. Yeah, it was. Yeah,
especially the first time. I was like, oh shit! Like I felt like I was Hugh Jackman reading it. Like, oh, he just got you, dude.
He needs some milk.
Yeah,
and then he does it to him, and like
it reminded me of like in Christmas Story, was like, be sure to drink your Ovaltine. Like, shit. It's like, I just traveled from London to Colorado's 7,000-8,000 miles or something.
Yeah, and especially that day, man. That must have been such an arduous fucking thing.
Yeah.
Right on. I'm curious too. Did you know? And I guess in my heart of hearts, I think having a kid probably sways me, but I'm on team Christian Bale at the end because the kid gets to go back with him or a version, or no, it is him. He's the original that loved Sarah, like who lived. So I felt good about that. But
do you think one of them killed? Do you think the other one killed the wife?
We each had half of a full life, really, which was enough for us. Just. But not for them.
No.
She didn't kill herself?
No,
I don't know. Bitch was about to blab. She was about to meet up with Scarlett Johansson and tell her.
You could argue for that, and to be honest, I guess, full disclosure, I haven't really thought about that. That's the first that I've thought to think of that. I totally bought her like kind of spiraling, and they show her drinking, and she's obviously like fucked up, and over the course of their relationship too, having to deal with like that Jekyll and Hyde, like today you love me, today you don't, that kind of thing could just wear someone down. So I just totally bought that it was suicide. But now that you bring it up, I mean, you could definitely argue for it. But like, I still have reservations because at the end of the day, I think the correct answer is they're both shitty people.
Yeah.
And it started with Bale, but Jackman, I mean, eye for an eye, you know, there's no winners.
So the more I think about it, you know, at first viewing, I found myself leaning more towards Hugh Jackman, just because I like the idea of like a revenge movie, and the way it started to play out was like, oh, this is cool. He's gonna go fucking shoot him, and then, you know, he's gonna retaliate. But I mean, based on what I think, I don't think he tied the wrong knot. So I think it was an actual accident. He was just doing his own routine. So he really didn't do anything wrong, except, you know, that one time he came up on stage and tried to busted that chick's fingers with the bird cage. But I mean, even that doesn't really.
Jarring.
It was, but that doesn't rise to the level of, you know, Hugh Jackman coming back and actually trying to kill him.
Yeah, with the bullet catch.
Yeah, well, and then he sends him on a wild goose chase. Fine, that, you know, that's really, there's nothing super like morally reprehensible about that. But then, yeah, that one part was pretty awesome where he was able to get to Hugh Jackman's drunk double and like totally embarrass him on stage by like tying him up and
that was,
I'm right across the street if you want to see this, but better. Yeah,
that was such a savage move for like two like competing fucking, you know, egos like that. And like, yeah, that was a bad move, or it was a good move on his part, but it just made him look so silly with that, like stringing him up. And
yeah, one thing I just happened to think about, I'm not exactly sure how the timeline worked exactly, because like you said, it was all fucking jumbled.
Yeah.
But like if Michael Caine figured out what was going on, it had to have been after the execution, because if he found out what was going on and was like, whoa, you're a fucking asshole, why not find a way to be like, hey,
to save the guy? Yeah,
like the classic film Double Jeopardy. Like, he's still alive, so let this man out. So
yeah, that's a good point for sure. I didn't think about that like that before. What about one of my favorite parts too is the speaking of like the one-upmanship and the back and forth, is when they fucking trap Fallon, who, if no one's seen this film, we should have done a spoiler alert, but fuck it.
Oh, I mean, my God.
This was from 2006, so if you're gonna fucking at me, then if you're
listening to this and you're pissed, get fucked. It should be obvious. If you're gonna talk about a movie, it's not. If you're listening and you're upset, I hate you.
Yeah, same. But when he traps with the false stare, limping up the stairs, and he fucking goes down, boom, right into the fucking coffin, and then they go, and he shoots Michael Caine's guy. He's like, saves me from cutting you an air hole. dude, that I love that part. And like when he goes to him and he negotiates and he's like, "Is he alive?" And he's like, "How fast can you dig?" I was like,
Yeah.
dude, that was
Yeah, that's another example of Hugh Jackman being more of the dirtbag, even though he's kind of portrayed as like the good guy. Like he actually kind of sucks.
Yeah, that's how I took him. Like, I guess maybe the first handful of times I watched it, I was like, yeah, Hugh Jackman's in the right. And I feel like the film tries to steer you that way too. But the more I've watched this, like the more I've come over kind of to the other side. Yeah.
Well, here's another thought I had was, you know, Michael Caine, he's testifying against Christian Bale in court, right? So he genuinely believes at that time that he was responsible for this murder. But that means that all the previous performances, he had never gone down into the basement because he would have seen the tank.
Right.
But also when he went down into the basement, he would have seen Christian Bale like frantically trying to get him out of the tank. Like, doesn't that strike you as unusual if somebody's attempting to cold-blooded murder you, that they would put themselves at the scene of the crime, you know, because he could have just set that up and then left and it's like, oh, it's an accident or who knows. But then to sit right there while the murder's happening and also to be like attempting to get him out, that just seems strange. And also, if you've got a chick in a glass cube and, you know, it's supposed to have a false latch, right? Yep. That's the trick. Mm-hmm. And your little 60-second timer goes off. Maybe try to just open the false latch instead of bashing through what seems to be the strongest fucking glass on earth.
Yeah, it's like 4 inches thick of glass. Yeah, that's probably it's probably a tie for my second biggest gripe of that is like they talk about it. Like you said, there's a false lock and this is where.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a little counterintuitive, but yeah, maybe that was just a misstep in making it, or it's like, well, fuck it. I mean, we have to have her die. Like that's the impetus for everything to start going along. But, or maybe there's some.
I wanted to come across as like super overly critical. Just something I noticed. Like, oh, that's weird. I thought when they were down in the thing, he's like, this is supposed to be a false latch. Well, I mean, I guess, am I conflating two things when he was talking about the tank in the basement having the false latch, but this one was a real lock? I guess it was
he used the same one, and I think they made a point of that because it was like
because it was like a flashback, like, oh, he died in this type of thing, which they had like a history with the same type of thing, and that's when it flashed back to his wife.
Yeah, because he did it as like a token, maybe to her, you know, or like in remembrance of her, that he kept using the same exact kind of one.
Yeah.
Here's another question that I'm curious about with your first viewing this fresh. Did you see the twist coming with who Fallon was?
She sacrificed Robert. That's the price of a good trick.
Yeah, just because I knew. Yeah, I mean, obviously going into it, I knew there was a twin reveal, and I was really. It seemed like it was going to be Christian Bale towards the beginning, or maybe I knew that on some level, but I was really trying to not assume that, and so I was thinking like, oh, maybe it's what's his fuck, and you know, so I was really trying to keep an open mind. But then the first couple times they showed him, you know, I was like, this guy is clearly just heavily disguised for a reason, and they're just not showing him. And so unfortunately, I didn't get to experience the magic of that twist, but I don't think it took away from the overall enjoyment of the movie. Dude, when they put the cat in that machine, I was like, don't you dare kill this cat.
And the dude too is like, I'm holding you personally responsible when anything happens to this fucking cat. Did you know, a little side trivia too, that dude, Andy Serkis, that is the dude who does the mocap for Smeagol.
What?
Gollum in The Lord of the Rings.
Never seen a one.
You've never seen him? Okay.
No.
That's fine. I'm not hardcore about it.
Mocap, like motion capture?
Yeah.
Okay.
So like they put like shit on you and then you film it and then they turn it into CGI. I guess he's big for doing that. Like he did I want to say he was King Kong, the one with Jack Black in like 2000. Who gives a fuck?
Do I even need to say it at this point?
Yeah. And then he was also in those new Planet of the Apes movies that came out like 3 or 4 years ago. He was
never seen him.
he was the main dude, Caesar, like the main smart chimp. But he's also like an actor. He was in Black Panther too, but I really liked his character in this film. And
I thought he was a cool character too.
Even like I just saw this theory last night. Is some people were saying there's a wild ass theory that he's actually Tesla, and the dude David Bowie's character is just like kind of it mirrors Bale and Jackman in that, because it would take away from like like if that was actually him and he was playing like his right hand man and stuff, he could get away with more by being the actual like dude who does stuff like the right hand man versus being the actual face. I think one of the key pieces of or the key piece of evidence that people pointed to was like how quickly he rushes him out when the shit seemingly fails the first time. He's like, oh yeah, he's like, because Jackman looks at him, he's like, Tesla, what the fuck? He's like, what's going on? And he like kind of clams up a little bit and he's like, oh, come back in a week, come out, we got to work on some things, like.
Yeah, that is interesting, because I'm trying to remember, there was that other scene where both of the magicians are at that like Tesla exposition or something.
Yeah.
And if I remember right, Tesla wasn't there, but his sidekick was there, and he said something like, oh no, he couldn't make it, or he's not here, or
he was like protesting it because they wouldn't allow him like the full Monty of demoing his shit.
Well, and it makes sense why you would have, I guess the only way to describe it would be like, not a patsy so much, like, but if you're such a polarizing figure, you kind of would want a little cover, you wouldn't, I mean, it sucks for David Bowie, but it makes sense why you would sort of hide in plain sight. I'm trying to think, I'm sure there's been an example of that either in a movie or in real life.
They did it in Star Wars, Phantom Menace, with Queen Amidala and Padme.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, I can see it being a good tactic, and we don't have to spend a ton of time on it. That was one I just saw, and I was like, oh, that's interesting, and like shit that I can't remember that they were talking about as like evidence for it. I was like, and I thought it was cool too, because then it tied back into like the idea of doubles, and that is the main theme of the story, like with Bale's
like the diversion, like look over here because you're not looking at the actual thing while this is going on.
Are you watching closely?
Yeah. I thought that would have been awesome if he figured out a way to escape from jail too. But
I like that scene where he fucks with the guard who's been giving him so much shit, and he fucking gets that shit to his leg, the chain. That was awesome.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool too, like how he's like, when he was saying one day, I'll maybe throw something in the air and say a magic word and I'll be gone. And that's actually what happened when he fucking gets hung at the end. He says he's all abracadabra, and that was pretty good.
I liked it. It's funny, the more you like think about it, the more little things kind of pop up, and especially since it was the book that was probably super long, it makes you sort of go over everything they included, because they would be trimming as much fat as possible. So anything they leave in, even if it seems innocuous, it would have to be deliberate. They wouldn't just include some random scene just to fill time. It's not like a 90-minute movie where they want a couple more minutes or whatever. So I could see where rewatching it, you would pick up on little things, because, I mean, what's it like, 130 minutes? Probably every minute of that has got to be important to the plot. So
yeah, especially knowing Nolan and like the way how like invested he is in each one of his films and like how intricately detailed, meticulous he is, like, yeah, that even makes more sense. But
well, did you have like some trivia or
oh yeah,
things you wanted to go over? Or?
Yeah, going back to that one thing. I mean, this is kind of just like pretty batshit, but well, not pretty. It is batshit crazy, but like what we were talking about off air about Christian Bale's famous fucking tirade against the director of photography of Terminator Salvation, how he fucking just like,
yeah.
Like I said, I went off the deep end on Reddit theories, and this person was like, check this out. What if
the earth was flat?
Yes. No. And then 2, what if Bale is an actual double? What if he has a fucking double in real life? So it's like life imitating art, imitating, and like Chris Nolan knows about this because he has a brother, Jonathan Nolan, that's not a twin, but he's like super like close with him, and like he's like, yeah, he's like, I want to tell my story, but I want to disguise it in a film. I thought it was just kind of a fun thing to think about, because people are like, sometimes he's like, he does like, Make-A-Wish Foundation, and he does all this cool shit and all this good humanitarian stuff. And then there's other instances like I think it was either a Golden Globe or an Oscar something or other. He was accused of like fucking kicking and or like pushing his mom down the stairs.
Oh yeah, I remember
like a domestic altercation. Yeah, with his wife or someone. And then obviously the fucking huge blow up. I mean, because he goes pretty fucking nuclear in that tirade on the Terminator Salvation. So it's complete hog shit, but it's just it's kind of fun to think about.
Well, if that's true, then I'm going to hold out hope that Mel Gibson's angry voicemails are a twin, not just an insane person who lost his grip on reality.
Yeah, I mean, dude, sometimes it's hard for me to like separate the fucking artist from the art, and sometimes it's not. But like, like Michael Jackson can go fuck, but like Mel Gibson, it's like I'm still gonna watch fucking Lethal Weapon and Lethal Weapon 2 and be like, fuck yeah, like
yeah.
But
well,
yeah, maybe,
without getting too like hippy dippy woo woo, up into the brain, it's like it totally makes sense why somebody who would get into a world. I mean, if you don't have at least like a dash of narcissism to be like an entertainer or like a huge movie star, if you go into it without that, I don't see how you could not develop that as you go. Like, and he was such a huge star for so long. In a similar vein, when people are like, I can't believe Tiger Woods is fucking all these chicks. Like, he was a dorky golfer, a dorky golfer growing up, kind of awkward, kid. And then it's like every chick is just throwing herself at him. Like, yeah, that's going to happen with most dudes. Like, most guys are not going to have the self-control, to resist that forever.
Especially having that like upbringing. Yeah, he's just like going to go hog wild. Like,
yeah.
His
dad was an asshole, like super authoritarian,
Yeah, he had to be on the golf course probably like fucking 16 hours a day and shit. Like, yeah, he needed to that was him letting the fuck loose.
Yeah.
He just got lost in the sauce.
Yeah. But Tiger's coming back. They think he's going to play at the Masters this year. We'll see. But
God, I still love that picture of the dude wearing the Tiger Woods mugshot on the t-shirt. And he's at, I don't know what golfing event it is, but he's sitting there right in the front, and it shows Tiger Woods walking. Have you seen this?
Oh yeah.
Tiger Woods.
He like, you can see that he sees like his shirt and like got a little smile on his face.
Yeah.
If he wasn't so high on, Vicodin and Miller Lite, he probably would have been pissed off when he saw that shirt, but he probably just looked over and was like, yeah.
Dude, he's such a fucking. I've seen so many clips of him being such a fucking asshole. That's why I thought it was funny that shirt struck him just that time of day and like that moment. that he let his guard down and he. But,
yeah, or he was doing that like fake smiling thing, and then he turned to like a sheriff or something. Was like, get that guy the fuck out of here.
Yeah, he's like, all right, I'm gonna kill 2 hookers tonight.
Yeah,
like,
it is always fun to see golfers like snap and yell at a fan, like they'll be about to putt or something. Some guy's like, yeah, and like Bubba Watson will be like, get out of here. I wear a visor.
There's one of Tiger Woods. He's getting ready to tee off, and someone rolls. He doesn't even throw. Someone rolls like a fucking orange. It was like the biggest orange I've ever seen. He like rolls a grapefruit like bocce ball, like behind him like 10 feet. And dude, Tiger Woods comes back and he's all, Jesus Christ! Like he just like loses his shit over that. All right, back to I have a couple just fun factoids to tie this up. Then I guess is I thought it was cool too. The like mirroring each other's situation is one is that I didn't even think of watching it, but Borden and Angier, so Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman, they both die, or at least a version of them die at least once, the same way each other's wives did, or significant others. So like one time Hugh Jackman dies of drowning, at least the OG, or maybe. And so does that Julia, the beginning, and then Borden, obviously, at the end, one of him gets hung, and then his wife hangs herself. I thought that was kind of neat.
Isn't that weird if your twin brother was banging your wife?
Yeah, there's. I think the more you think about that relationship, the more it's like,
well, you don't know which one the actual dad is of the kid.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could argue either way on that, but it would make it hard to like.
Well, I think it's just
especially back in those days, like when people.
Oh, they didn't have Maury.
Yeah, people doing backflips and shit. You are not the father.
It would be funny if like the twin who loved his wife was not the twin who fathered the kid.
Yeah, he's like, fuck, now I'm saddled with this brat.
Yeah.
What's the other one? I really like Michael Caine in this.
Scarlett Johansson die? That would have been cool.
Yeah, she just kind of like goes away in like the first part of the third act. She kind of
just cool if Christian Bale like somehow sneakily swapped himself out when he was waiting to go to the hangman, like under a cloak, and he like sneaks his way out, and then they just hang her. And yeah,
Abracadabra.
Yeah,
Abracadabra, B. Yeah, I think that's it. I think
I think we did good.
Yeah, I think the one last thing that struck me too is like how he talks at the end of like having the courage to go up every night and not know. I think that's telling too, and that, well, maybe it's not telling, but it's just something crazy to think about, like having the stones. Like if whoever he is doesn't know if he's going to make it out the other side, I mean, one of them will. The one that makes it through is like, oh yeah, I knew it. I'm good. Everything's fine. I'm going to do this. But then I feel like a little piece of him would have to like maybe think about it, like right as the shit's shooting down. The other side, like the one that does go down in the box, when he drowns every night, when he's in there, he's like, oh fuck, it finally happened. I was wrong. Yeah. You know, and like just like thinking through that, and then he's dying. But I mean, I if we examine that too much more, we'll just fucking spin our wheels thinking about it, because it's so I mean, it's so hard to wrap your head around.
It's almost like time travel movies or stories where it's like, okay, we're just going to be, you know, we'll get caught in like this endless cycle. So
yeah,
but it is fun to at least sort of wade into that pool a little bit without getting so like up your own ass about that type of thing. So
yeah, and I think that's what some people, especially with Nolan films, have, like, you know, Inception and what's another, like
Memento.
I like Memento a lot.
I like Memento.
I feel like it's not super head up its ass, but I could see.
Oh no, I get what you're saying. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But I feel like his most recent film that you probably haven't seen is Tenet. I really did not fucking like that movie. Like, his head is so far up his ass. It's like, and people have quoted this too, saying like he has to prove that he's the smartest guy in the room, and I can totally see that. Like, Tenet, someone made the comment that Tenet's like, it's so smart that it fucking comes all the way back around and it's dumb as shit, you know? And it really is. It's like, I do not watch that film. You're not missing anything. But like Inception too, like I know a lot of people that love that fucking film, and I'm just like, I thought it was cool visually, like a popcorn movie, but like I don't want to sit and like think about like the fucking top spinning at the end. And he's even come out and said, fuck, I don't know. Like, he's super flippant about that film, Inception specifically. About, like,
I think if I would have seen, because I saw Donnie Darko when I was like, I don't know, 14 or something, was like, that's cool. But I think if I would have seen it in my 30s, I'd be like, this is kind of dumb and like kind of cheesy. I don't know though. I guess you can never really say for sure how you're gonna react to something when you see it for the first time, but it definitely had like that air around it, like, it's crazy, like a mind fuck, you know. But I like it.
See, we working on his brow chakra. We're just in back of the crown chakra.
Yeah, I watched Donnie Darko in like when I was like 19 or 20, and I was on drugs, and that movie fucking hit me pretty good. Yeah. Like at the end, like I was convinced that Patrick Swayze was the devil. That's a good movie. I haven't watched it in a long time though. Cool. Yeah, I think that wraps it up for the Prestige. I know we could have talked about it more and gotten a lot more out of it, but
yeah, it was good. No Street Fighter, but you know, it was still a good movie.
Yeah, I'm glad you watched it, and I'm glad you liked it. One last thing I wanted to talk about, when and this is backtracking, but when they go and then Allie shows him all the wireless shit, and he sees that big field of lights go on.
Yeah.
When that first happened, when I saw this in the theater back in 2006. So I was like, I just turned 21, and I thought for some reason, because looking back on it now and examining it, I'm like, why the fuck did I think that? I thought, oh shit, there's gonna be like some alien shit going on, or like something otherworldly. And then towards the end, it doesn't really come back to that. But I think that was just kind of like a side thing. Like they were just highlighting like what a crazy genius Tesla was, and like, yeah, that okay, he can make something crazy,
like establishing like how revolutionary his technology could be or something. So yeah, because if they didn't have that, and then later they're like, whoa, he made this machine where you can like clone yourself, it's like, well, where the fuck did that come from?
Yeah, it wouldn't have the same impact. And yeah, totally.
Yeah, I wonder, like, I didn't really look into it at all, but I wonder, like, did Tesla actually have a research facility in Colorado? Like, is any of that real? Or
I did some cursory research. I wish I would have done more, but the only thing I can say with certainty, he was in Colorado Springs at that time doing shit. That's all I know though.
Oh, that's cool.
So, and I know Nolan he's like a stickler for details and stuff. So, but I can't comment on anything other than that, but I do know he was there. I don't know what the fuck he was doing.
Did you know Tesla was a twin?
He was in real life?
No, I'm just kidding. I have no idea.
Oh, okay. I could see him being like one of those ones like where they're twins in the womb and the fucking the other fetus absorbs it.
Yeah.
I can't remember what that phenomenon is called.
Like he ate his twin and absorbed all his brain power.
Yeah, that's I could totally see that. But that's an actual thing. I can't remember what the fuck it's called, but it does happen. Like it's a medical phenomenon.
Yeah.
I wish I knew what it was, but anyway, okay. Coolio. So
yeah, this was fun.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm glad you watched it. So in keeping with the theme of the show, is to kind of randomize this up a little bit, not have it be strictly a movie review podcast. At this point, we're going to So we have 3 different topics. So we're going to randomize the topic, and then we'll see what we're going to talk about next time. So without further ado, let's see. All right. So the next topic will be the unexplained. Ooh, yes. And it's going to be concerning Jason Simpson, who has been, there's some theories about his involvement in the OJ murders.
Oh, that's his son?
Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman. Yeah. So that'll be fun. Super fun to talk about, I think. That's one I've been itching to like dig into a little bit more, because I've heard that theory, and ever since I heard it, I was like, fuck, why doesn't anyone else talk about this? But if you want to like look ahead and look up the significance of Jason Simpson, that's what we'll be talking about next episode. So stay tuned. You can reach out to us if you want to send us an email at waxingtheporpoise.com. We also have our Instagram set up, Waxing the Porpoise, and Twitter at Waxing the Porpoise. So thanks for joining us, guys, and we will be back talking about Jason Simpson next time. Take it easy.
Thanks, guys.
Fucking filthy, dirty, fucking cockfucker.
You have anything to say?